to you. Shalom to everyone. How are you doing this morning? This is Bill, and I'm coming to you live from the Biblical Lifestyle Center in Bowie County, Texas, in Texarkana, Texas. And we've had a little technological issues this morning. That is part of for the course. One computer died, and we've got another one trying to come up and getting used to the new computer. So if things are a little confused, we'll try to get over that in a short period of time. It's so good to see you. I've been looking forward to spending this time together with you in my office here in my little heder, my little private space, that we can come together and just enjoy the fellowship, enjoy time together on the holy day, the Sabbath day, the day in which we receive each week an infusion of holiness, energy, of divine kedusha from heaven to earth. May it be on earth as it is in heaven for this day and for our time together. May the words of the throne room, the words of the courts of the King, the words that are spoken by angels and cherubim and seraphim find their way into human form, into human lips, and from our conversations with one another, may there be revelations straight from the throne of the Holy One. Though we are imperfect and though our voices are not near as beautiful nor as clear as a Holy One's, may yet still our spirits within us leap with joy at the thought and at the sound, at the majesty of our King's voice. Good morning to you. Shabbat Shalom. This week we are finishing up our studies in the book of Exodus. We have a banqueting table set for us each Sabbath day, as there is fresh bread set out in the tabernacle's table of showbread each Sabbath day. So it is with us. We come to the table each Sabbath day, and He spreads out for us the Torah. And today He has spread for us a double portion, a double amount, twice the amount. We have two-part portions that we will read or meditate on, at least discuss with each other in my little heder today. And those are parshas of Vayakhel, beginning with Exodus 35, and Pekudie, beginning in chapter 37, continuing all the way through the end of Exodus 40:38. We will conclude this great book of wonders, the second book of Torah, today. And we have this great feast ahead of us as to how to do so. I subtitle the lesson or the discussion we're going to have, the drash for Shabbat that we're going to have today, I subtitle it the Tabernacling Initiative. The Tabernacling Initiative. You are familiar with the term tabernacle as a noun, but there is a verb form of that where it is coming to dwell, coming to circle over, to meet together, to visit, to pakad, to inspect, to call together. All sorts of things have to do with whenever the King of Glory comes and tabernacles with us. This is a beautiful thing. Now, this is the initiative, the tent maker's dream, as I tend to want to call it. This is the vision that the Holy One really desires to have a place to dwell with men upon the earth. We are the problem. He's not the problem. The problem is with men. We are fallen, and our minds are unable to conceive of His majesty and deal with it. Our ears, our souls, our flesh is weak. Our hearts are distracted, carried away, divided, conflicted, and so therefore His presence in our midst is problematic, not for Him, but for us. And so He gives us this thing called a tabernacle. It is our overarching covenant. He does not reveal Himself to us in His fullness as He did in the Garden of Eden with Adam, because we have now got this flaw. We have now got this defect. We now have this brokenness within us that He must overcome. And so He does. He tabernacles amongst us. And the tabernacle becomes the covering over us. He doesn't need it. We do. So we're going to discuss the substance of the tabernacling initiative of the King. What a glorious thing that our King, our beautiful Creator, who is wise beyond all wisdom, who is good beyond all goodness, he wishes to dwell in our midst. Oh, and that will change everything. If we host him, it'll be like hosting the ultimate epitome of royalty, of goodness, and that will change us. It'll change what we talk about. If we've been in his presence, if we have been in his tabernacle, in his secret place of the Most High, yes, we'll think different thoughts, higher thoughts, more beautiful thoughts. We will feel different emotions. We'll feel his passions as opposed to fleshly desires and drives and cravings and reactions and negativity that we feel about because we're looking laterally at other human beings. We will begin to speak holy, beautiful, creative, empowering words, inspiring words, rather than negativity, criticism, complaint, just judgment, and those sorts of things. Everything about us will change. Our family relationships will change. Our demeanor, the way we carry ourselves, our dress, everything about us, the way we present ourselves to the world. As we will tabernacle with them the way he tabernacles with us. And as a tabernacle, we present ourselves in the most beautiful, most humble, but most wonderful way possible. The Tabernacling Initiative. How are you coming on the Tabernacling Initiative? How close can the Holy One get to you? How much of his presence can he download into your life the way you are now? How open are you? How much invitation have you granted to him to come in and fill you and do what he's going to do with this tabernacle, the physical tabernacle on earth this week? He's going to fill it with his presence, the cloud of his kavod, of his glory. It's translated in English. It means the weight of his presence, the majesty, the fullness of that sends ripples, impacts, waves, shock waves into the earth, and brings all sorts of things, everything from healing to conviction, or conviction to healing, to restoration, to vision, to all sorts of things come with his presence. But how open are you to his presence? Will the Eternal One indeed dwell with men on the earth? Will the Holy One, will the Eternal One, will the great compassionate One, will the great merciful One, will the great wise One come and indeed dwell with men upon the earth? It is our choice. It is up to us. He is willing. He wants to be here. He wants to visit. He wants to shakan. He wants to dwell right in our midst. This is the plan. He wants it to be unto us in a sense like it was in Eden before the fall, when he could come and visit with his people. And he was there. His presence was omnipresent everywhere and felt, understood, and men were conscious of it. Now he has to disguise himself, basically, hide behind many things, the least intrusive of which is the tabernacle. The Tabernacling Initiative is on, and we are about to see where it leads next. As the book of Exodus, the book of Shemot, as in Hebrew it's called, the book of names, the book of callings, prepares to conclude, we find ourselves in a bad state, in the humanity state. We have just had the sin of the golden calf. We tried to do something our way. We tried to have community our way. We tried to have a gathering our way. We tried to choose things that we like. We gathered together, kahal. We tried to form a kahal around Aharon when Moshe was gone up on the mountain receiving the download from the Holy One about what the Tabernacling Initiative was going to look like. When that happened, we gathered, we assembled, we came together on our own, with our own initiative, and with a motive of brokenness. And what we asked Aaron to do was to make us a religion, make us a God, an image that we could follow, we could control, that didn't try to control us, that didn't try to teach us, that we could tell what to do. This is the golden calf. disaster, the golden calf catastrophe, and this is the golden calf mindset that fills mankind. If left to ourselves, when we get together, we'll build a golden calf. We'll create a golden calf system. So we had the consequences of that last week in Parsha Ki Tisa. And as a result, we desperately need and are ripe for a time of refreshing, a time of visitation from the Creator of the universe, a time of reawakening to who we really are, not that person that wants to control and manipulate and rule and use other people for his own sake of pleasure and his own sake of religious fervor. No, we need a time of reawakening of the neshama, of the God-breathed life force within us that is submissive, that is reactive, responsive to him, that is cognizant and aware of his presence and of his leading, and feels the gentle touch and the gentle movement of his hand, like a dancer responds to the woman responds to the man in the dance, in the pattern. The one who follows responds to the one who leads. May it be so again. We need to have that. We need a reawakening of that in us. We need a reconnection with our bridegroom king, particularly his persona. Who is he? We have forgotten. We thought he was like an inanimate object. We thought we could make a God who was inanimate, who didn't have persona, who didn't have personality, who didn't have personhood, who didn't have a flowing life force that we needed to respond to. We thought we could just have him and put him in a box and make him do what we wanted to do and think what we wanted him to, we said he thought. And believe what we said he should believe and do what we said he should do. We thought that was, but no. We need a reawakening, a reconnecting with our bridegroom king's persona, his personhood, his personality, his identity. And that brings into play his majesty, not our intelligence, not our sense of what we want or what we need or what we feel is right. His majesty overwhelms all that. His presence does that. So we need his persona, his personality, his majesty, his presence. We need his vision. We need a reconnecting with his vision. Our vision was, let's get together and let's do what makes us feel good, and let's do what we think is right in our own eyes, and let's make God be our servant. That's our vision. We need his vision. Beloved, we, again, in this day and this age, in this season, desperately do we need his vision. His vision for us individually, each individual one of us. What is his vision for you, my beloved, my friend? In this, as we're sitting in this Heder together, we're discussing things together. What is his vision for you? Do you even understand? He has a vision for you that far exceeds anything you could possibly ask or hope or think. You want to get a download. You want to reconnect with his vision for you as opposed to your own. What about our families, our wives, our children, our children's children, our brothers, our sisters, our neighbors? He has a vision for each of them. And for all of us collectively, in whatever sphere or communal aspect we have with those folks. And in addition, with regard to each nation, wherever you may be watching or listening to this broadcast, wherever we may be sharing this conversation, if it's in Australia, if it's in New Zealand, if it's in South Africa, if it's in Malaysia, if it's in Indonesia, if it's in Israel, if it's in South Africa, if it's in Kenya, if it's in Uganda, if it's in England, if it's in or any part of Great Britain, Ireland, or Scotland, or Wales, if it's in Europe, any part of the nations of Europe, or the nations of South America, or Mexico, wherever you may be listening to, wherever you may be connecting with this, he has a vision for you and for your family and for your sphere of influence and for your nation. And he has a vision for these things. He has a vision for all nations and for all the other nations of the earth and the individuals and the households and the institutions that make up those nations. He has a vision that we would get his vision again and quit listening to men's visions and men's anger and men's sense of self-righteousness, and instead humble ourselves before our King and receive his tabernacling initiative. He has a vision for mankind, all the seed of Adam and Hava. He has a plan for the redemption of mankind as a species, bloodline by bloodline, household by household and individual by individual, as many as will come. He has a vision for the ecosystem, the earth, the universe in which we live, that we've all been given to participate in and to steward and to live off of, but also to leave for our children behind us. He has a vision for this ecosystem, a vision for restoration to Edenic state. Oh, we would get his vision again, not just we want his persona, we need his personality and his personhood, his majesty and his presence. Oh, but we need the vision that comes with that, to see above the things of this earth and the things of the ethnic arguments and the class biases and the gender discussions and disputes and all the national, international fights and all the institutional thinking. We need to get outside that box and get his vision. We need to get a reconnection with our collective calling, the calling of B'nai Israel, the people of the living God. We need to get in touch with that and become part of that, in the flow of what he's doing. We need to get in touch with our collective identity and our collective destiny, as well as our individual calling, identity, and destiny, and how they fit together with the greater whole. We need to get in touch with, we need to get engaged with, we need to get involved in the shared common mission that he has assigned us in this world. He has brought us to his banqueting table, therefore. That's why he's brought us here. Because he knows what we need, and he knows what he wants to give us. He has brought us to his banqueting table and his banner over us, his love. Here we are in episode 10, the final episode of the B'nai Israel Chronicles, at least in the book of Exodus is part of it. Episode 10, Vayakhel, or Vayakhel. Some people would like to pronounce it with the emphasis on the second syllable. The collective mission that we've been talking about, that we need to get reconnected with, starts with a certain thing, with sanctifying, with setting things apart, to make holy that which is profane and common, to make clean that which is unclean, to make beautiful that which is ugly, to make safe and healthy and whole that which is unsafe and toxic and noxious and fragmented. So he is going to start with us sanctifying for him alone space, time, material substances, living things, creatures, and our own selves. The ultimate plan is for our own selves, us individually and collectively, to become sanctified, set apart to him. That there may be heaven touching earth, little points of connection where heaven can touch earth and heaven's Kedusha, holiness invasion, can come through us. These places, they come in time, they come in space, they come in material things and living creatures, they come in individual human beings, individual lives and families. Now, with this tabernacle initiative involved, I want to kind of remind you of something that King Solomon, Shlomo, our beautiful king, has started so well with his kingship. When he built the temple, he said this. He prayed. This is his prayer, public prayer before all the people. Whatever prayer, he said, whatever supplication is made by anyone or by all your people Israel, individual prayer or collective prayer for all the people of Israel, the communal things that we do once a year, once a week, once a month, whatever, those things, all those things, plus any individual prayer, whatever supplication is made by anyone or by all your people Israel, when each one knows the darkness of his own heart and spreads out his hands toward this house, he says, talking about the house that he built, and we can talk about the tabernacle. Whenever we go to the place where the Holy One tabernacles, when we spread out our hands toward that, when we issue a prayer, we call out upon the Holy One at that place. And then Shlomo's prayer is, then Shema in heaven, your dwelling place. We don't think that somehow he only dwells in our presence. He consents to have a place of visitation with us here. But his dwelling is in the heaven. Then Shema, when these prayers come forth to you, individually or collectively, then Shema in heaven, your dwelling place, and forgive. Oh, do we need the forgiveness? Do you understand how much you need the forgiveness of the Holy One? You are not what you think you are if you think you're good, if you think you're perfect. We are all in a broken state, the broken state of post-golden calf. and yet the lingering effects of golden calf. So here, Shema in heaven, your dwelling place, forgive and act and give to everyone according to all his ways, whose heart you know, for you alone know are the hearts of all sons of men, in order that they may fear you all the days that they live in the land in which you gave to your fathers. And moreover, this is not just Israel, moreover, concerning a foreigner, Shlomo says, for an alien, someone from another country, another class, another culture, another ethnicity, concerning a foreigner who is not of your people of Israel, but has come from a far country for your name's sake. Oh, whoever you are and listening today, whoever you're hearing, whatever your ethnicity, whatever your nationality, whatever your skin color, whatever your manifestations physically look like, or whatever your bloodline consists of, do you hear him calling you? And he's calling you for his own name's sake, for the sake of his presence, for the sake of his presence dwelling with you and dwelling upon the earth. Moreover, concerning a foreigner, Shlomo said, who is not of your people Israel, but who has come from a far country for your name's sake, for they will hear of your great name and your strong hand and your outstretched arm, Shlomo says. When he comes, when this foreigner comes, and when he prays toward this house, Shema in heaven again. Shema in heaven for the foreigner. Shema in heaven for those who are feeling outside the circle, outside the covenant. Shema in heaven, your dwelling place. And make according to all for which the foreigner calls to you. That all the peoples, why? In order that all peoples of the earth, not just the Hebrew, not just the Jew, not just this ethnicity, or that ethnicity, or this religion, or that religion, that all peoples of the earth may know your name, know your presence, know your essence, know who you are, and fear you, revere you, honor you, as do your people Israel. And that they may know that this house that I have built, Shlomo says, is called by, is consumed in your presence and your name. Well, that opens up the first parsha, Vayakhel, the spirit of community done the Holy One's way, of overcoming the brokenness that came after the golden calf, of coming out, being called not by men, but by the Holy One himself, not to men, not to gathering with men, but unto gathering with the Holy One himself. And if men happen to be there alongside of us, that's a secondary benefit. That is not the purpose of our gathering. The tent maker's dream is that he will gather, him personally, he will gather scattered sparks, make them join together and come alive in real time. The stunning revelation of the Holy One's midot, his 13 attributes at the end of Parsha Ki Tisa, has left Moshe's face shining. As we get ready to get into our story, join our story in progress, Moshe's face is glowing, shining, illumined. It is so hard to look at that if you can imagine being in the presence of the Holy One, his light is so bright. And now Moshe's face is lit with that. Not because he's smarter than he was, because he's more humble and he more realizes the beauty of the persona and the personhood, the personality, and the ways of the Holy One. They are merciful, compassionate, slow to anger, faithful to covenant, forgiving. This is who he is now with that revelation. The love light of the Holy One is shining on Moshe's face. And for the first time in his life, probably, his heart is finally overflowing with shalom, with joy, with the fruit of the Spirit as we think about gentleness, kindness. Now these are the faithfulness. He is now glowing because he's a different man by virtue of the experience of the revelation of the grace and the mercy and the kindness of the Holy One. But alas, back in the camp, it is not so with the people. Our faces are not shining. We didn't hear the midot proclaimed to Moshe in the cleft of the rock. He's going to have to come down and communicate that to us. And he's going to have to do it with his demeanor as well as with his words. It's not just truth we need. It is the impartation of the very feelings, the very emotions, the very persona of the Holy One. So don't give truth as empirical knowledge. And truth comes in the presence and the person of the Holy One. And Moshe's bringing that to us. But we haven't received it yet. After the golden calf debacle, we find ourselves like scattered sparks of divine fire. We are fractured in our souls and fragmented in our minds and tormented in our spirits and our wills. Our minds, our wills, and our emotions are all over the place. We are raw. We are frazzled. We don't trust ourselves. We don't trust anybody. We certainly don't trust men getting together in community. We don't trust their institutions. We don't trust their religion. We don't trust their philosophies. We don't trust their ideology. We don't trust their governments. We don't trust them because, you see, we have been hurt before. We have been lied to. We have been abused. We have been misused. We have been taken for granted before. This is the golden calf debacle in its aftermath. We have therefore retreated each man to his own tent. Ish petach aholo is what the Hebrew calls it in the Torah. Ish, every man. Petach at the opening. Aholo, of his tent. So I call this little phase or phrase before we get into the fullness of our discussions to ish petach aholo and back again. Yes, there is a phase. To every time there is a purpose, and to every season, and everything under heaven comes around in its season. And the time of ish petach aholo, the time of withdrawing from society and not trusting these organizations of men and these institutions of men and these ideas of men. That's a real important time that we go through. But it is only a path, only a phase that we go through because we are called back into the world. But after the dust of the golden calf incident settled, for us, gathering together became the absolute last thing on our priority list. We had no desire to have meetings. We had no desire to come together because, you see, we knew how bad things could go if you went. Torah tells us this way. Whenever Moshe went out to the tent of meeting, all the people arose, and they stood ish petach aholo, each man at the entrance to his own tent. And they watched Moshe until he had gone into his tent. And all the people rose, and they worshipped ish petach aholo. Oh, I know people have condemned the home fellowship movement, the home focus, the home school. They don't, because they think everybody should be in the institutions. Everybody should be in the conventions. Well, they don't understand what harm has been wrought by those institutions because they've gone absolutely crazy. They've been obsessed with things that they shouldn't be obsessed with, and they are not about the Holy One at all. They only use his name, like the Israelites coming to Aaron wanted to use the golden calf for their own purposes. So, therefore, it is a reasonable, understandable thing that there will be seasons of ish petach aholo for every human being and for communities. And so the focus will become every man on his own tent. That doesn't mean it's where we're going to end. That's not the ultimate goal. That's not the ultimate result. That is just the stage we have to go through in order to be prepared to do community the Holy One's way, as opposed to doing it the way men tell us it should be done. Now, what has happened is that each man in ish petach aholo has found his own way to worship the Holy One in private. As I said, each man at the entrance to his own tent. They would see Holy One meeting with Moshe, but they didn't want to be part of that. One by one, they began to graduate because they were drawn to the Holy One, but not by the idea of meeting together with men. So each man found his own way to worship the Holy One in private. Have you found that? You need to find that. You need to be very, very skillful in meeting with and worshiping and connecting with the Holy One in private before you ever try to do public worship or public meetings or public gatherings. Because if you don't, you'll become more of another golden calf. You'll make another man to be your guide. You'll make another image to be what you revere and honor. Oh well, so each man has found a way to worship the Holy One in private. But publicly, we still have quite an edge to us. We don't play well with others. We are suspicious. We're done with the hype. Oh, Aaron put together this calf, and then we danced, and we shouted, and we had music, and we had a feast, and we did all these things. The hype was not anything we want to repeat. We recoil at high-sounding rhetoric. Oh, people will say, this day will be a Sabbath unto the Holy One. And this is high-sounding rhetoric. But not reality. Not anything that had carried the personality, the persona, or the vision of the Holy One. We're tired of it. We're done with the hype, right? Are you not? We bristle at the "bring me your gold, please," for money. And which way is the wind blowing today approaches to spiritual truth. What's the hot doctrine? What's the hot discussion? What's the fad? Music or whatever the case may be. We bristle at all that obvious, blatant pagan idolatry. And so, yes, we also bristle at the "do as I say, but not as I do" approach of men to a faith walk. We followed way too many smooth-talking priests down the dark road of idolatry. And so, into this void, into this difficulty, steps the Parsha, Vayakhel. Vayakhel comes from the root kahal, which is a part of a family of Hebrew words that all flows out of the voice to emit a sound, to call aloud, as the Holy One did in the Garden of Eden. As a matter of fact, if you see Vayakhel and you don't understand this is another garden call, the Holy One's coming, and he's calling, and we're responding to his voice. Like Adam, he responded in the wrong way. He ran away. He was ishpatak aholo, and he had no tent to go to. Well, we tend to go to our own tents and hide and quit and give up and just sulk and try to operate from our own tents. But the Holy One calls us back. Vayakhel is the time of him calling back. His sound is not men. Men don't do this. The Holy One is calling it. Vayakhel means "and he called together." And he called together. To him, more so than to each other. But other people came. It was just an incident of the process. As the Holy One calls, many will come. But don't look at them. Look at him. Stay focused on him. If you stay focused on him, not them, you will be much better. When he tells you, you can look around and you'll see what they need. You'll see how you can serve them. But you're not ready for that until you've gazed upon him and seen his glory and his majesty and caught his vision. So, Vayakhel means that he called together, he called forth, kind of as like a witness throng, a throng of witnesses, a great cloud of witnesses, some might say, a mustered host, a gathered host of servants of an army. This is what Vayakhel means. Are you ready to be called out of your Ishpatak Aholo season? Are you ready to come forth and actually do the community and do your common mission of mankind through the call of the Holy One upon the earth? Are you ready to have him tabernacle with you and be a moving tabernacle of his presence and his agenda? Well, if you are, then get ready, because Vayakhel is coming. We are still, though, nursing the deep wounds that were inflicted by our epic fail of establishing community man's way. Yes, we are finally getting secure again, maybe, in our relationship with the Holy One. I hope you are. But most of us are by no means capable of playing well with others. And so the call that we're going to talk about in Vayakhel and Pekudie doesn't come from men. It comes from the Holy One. Yes, he'll use Moshe to do it, but it's obvious from the shining of his face and the tone of his voice that's changed that who's speaking to us is not Moshe, is not some man. It is the very voice of the Holy One. Now, at the present time, however, most of us are just plain too broken, too angry, too offended, too lost and fragmented in our spirits to love, much less serve any other human being. We're going to have to be changed. We're going to be brought into his presence first. We just don't want to be hurt by community again, right? We don't want to let down our guard. We don't want the vulnerability. We don't have the energy to pick through the vast mounds of garbage that community represents to us in hope of finding maybe a crust or two of stale bread. That's our experience, and it's a real experience. It's the state of community in the faith world as it is today. Oh, but there's a better vision. The Holy One has a much better vision of how men can relate to one another as they relate to him. Well, presently we don't have time for the pain, right? Each of us has picked our own toys up and has gone home and retreated to our own tent. But the Holy One is about to do something. Listen to me. Shema the voice of the King. The Holy One is about to do something. He is about to call forth and regather all the scattered sparks of broken humanity. He is about to bring us up and bring us out and tabernacle with us. That's the tabernacle initiative, the tent maker's dream. And in the course of doing so, he is about to reconnect each of his people, each individual, and each family with others, with each other. And he's going to reintroduce to us and to the world our grand prophetic destiny as a kingdom of Kohanim, as a kingdom of royal ambassadors who both love and serve their fellow man unselfishly, without hope of reward or expectation of acceptance or appreciation, because of who he is. That's why we do what we will do, not out of any sense of investment and seeking to get a return back on that, or to get prestige, or get a position, or get a title, or get influence among other people. That influence will come through him because we are serving him, and he just turns our attention to other people to serve him through them. Well, so what we're about to deal with in the Tabernacling Initiative is a synergization factor. He is about to synergize. As he awakens these and gathers these scattered sparks and awakens the destiny of who we really are in him, he is going to synergize us together, to cause us to flow together in harmony. And then we're going to have a 5.5 month period between Yom Kippur, the day that the second tablets returned, Moshe returned, shining, his face shining, with the second tablets in hand and reflecting and radiating the mercy and the kindness and the forgiveness of the Holy One for us and for mankind. From that day, from the day of Yom Kippur in the year of the Exodus to the first day of Nisan, 5.5 months later, we are going to synergize. Finally, we're going to have a time of shalom when nobody's complaining, nobody's arguing, nobody's jockeying for position, nobody's arguing over who should do what, or what should things look like, or who has the more perfect revelation, or whose doctrine is incorrect or needs to be tweaked in this regard. We're not going to be self-righteous during these 5.5 months. We're going to be submitted, surrendered, absorbed in, enamored by, caught up in the majesty of our King. And therefore we're going to be able to relate to one another out of that same shared sense of awe. We're going to experience Ruach HaKodesh, Holy Spirit activated catalytic conversions. We're going to have the Messiah factor birthed into us. We're going to, when two or more are gathered, there he will be in our name. Because we are focused upon the Holy One, not upon the religious forms, not upon ideas or concepts or abstractions. We're focused upon the person, the persona, and the vision and the goodness of our King. And that causes the Messiah factor to come alive when there are two or more are gathered. We're going to be seeing the synergization of edification facilitating protocols. There will be certain things that happen that cause us to edify and build up and comfort and encourage one another and inspire one another, instead of backbiting, instead of gossiping, instead of complaining, instead of murmuring. We're going to see that the mouth, the words of the whole human mouth can be blessings, because we are with him. And him, our conversation changes. Our ways of talk change. That's what the Tabernacling Initiative does. It's not just so he can be with us because he's lonely. He wants to be with us so that we can become absorbed in him and begin to be and reflect who he is in flesh. He wants to bring us to a point where iron can truly sharpen iron without breaking it. And that's where we need to be, focused on him to do that. So this week, Vayakhel and Pekudie, the last two portions of Exodus, is a week for the great nation that he promised to Avram, the Holy One promised to Avram to bring forth from his seed, for the great nation to emerge, come out of their individual tents, our individual mindsets, our individual little cubby holes, our individual hiding places scattered across the landscape, to be called forth to Kahal, to come forth to Kahila, the Holy One's way, to become a great witness throng with a world-changing love story to tell. We become a people of shining faces, of uplifted countenance, of joyful hearts, a people bursting with our King's vision and with his love and his plan and his hope and his agenda for redemption of humanity and for restoration of creation to Edenic state. We are to come forth as a great nation, awash in his shalom, awash, filled with his goodwill toward men, filled with his mercy and his compassion attributes, his forgiveness attributes, his faithfulness to covenant attributes, his patience, birthed out of wisdom and understanding, his long-term vision, his long-term cross-generational purposing, his flowing in the creativity, Elohim signature blend of Kedusha energy and creative flair and words that heal and words that bring about great, wonderful things. With that in mind, let's do our call to worship. Join with me if you know it. May this revelation flow into your hearts. May it come directly from the throne. Baruch Hu Adonai Hamvorak. Baruch Adonai Hamvorak Leolam Vayed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amin V'natan Lanu Et Toratu Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah. And now may you open our eyes, O Holy One, that we may see wondrous things in your Torah. For we are but strangers in this earth. So do not hide your commandments from us. The closing words of Kitisa were Ve'u ba'aru v'nei Israel et b'nei Moshe. And b'nei Israel took note concerning the face of Moshe. Ki karan or b'nei Moshe, for the skin of Moshe's face shone with light. Ve'heshiv Moshe et hamasve al panav, and so Moshe would cover his face with a mask. Ad bo'o ledaber ito, when he went out to speak to them. That's where we ended last week. This week it begins. The parsha begins, and open your ears, and open your hearts, and open your minds, that the wisdom of the Holy One may come forth. Vayakhel Moshe. Then Moshe called. Vayakhel Moshe et kol adat b'nei Israel. And Moshe called unto him and gathered the entire witness throng of b'nei Israel, called us forth out of our tents. Vayomer aleihim, and he said to them, Ele hadevarim. These are the words, the creative utterances, the world-changing things that Asher siva Adonai la'asot otam, that the Holy One has instructed you to build and cause to take shape upon the earth. This is your mission. This is your purpose, he says. This is what it is. Listen. Sheshed yamim te'asa melacha. 6 days. 6 days. Sheshed yamin te'asa melacha. 6 days is work to be done, to be made, to be formed, to be shaped in creative energy. V'bayom hashvi yeh lachem kadosh. But the 7th day shall be a day of holiness, of Kedusha for you. Shabbat Shabbaton l'Adonai. A Sabbath of rest unto the Holy One, for the Holy One, of the Holy One. Kol ha'osevo melacha yumat. Whoever does any work on it, death mode is operating in them. Letovaru esh bechomel shvit votekim. They are not to kindle or burn or consume by fire in any of their dwellings. B'yom ha-Shabbat, it is on the Sabbath day. And he goes forward. Vayomer Moshe el kol edat b'nei Israel. And then Moshe spoke to all the witness throng of b'nei Israel. Lemor zeh hadabar, saying, this is the creative utterance and energy, Asher siva Adonai lemor, that the Holy One has enjoined, saying, Teku me'itkem teruma le'Adonai, take in hand from them a teruma, an uplifting, an eye casting forward, a buoyancy achieving unto the Holy One. Kol nadiv livu yevi'eh et terumat Adonai. All who have a heart willing to lift themselves up, lift things up to the Holy One. zahav, gold. V'kasef, silver and silver. V'nekoshet, bronze, and it goes on, and that's the message. We can get above it. We can get beyond it. We can get beyond the golden calf. We can get beyond the brokenness. We can get beyond the distrust of our fellow man. We can get beyond the woundedness of our spirits and our souls. We can get beyond the trauma and the traumatic effects upon our spirit. We can get beyond the PTSD. We can get beyond the anger. We can get beyond the offense. We can get beyond it. We can get beyond it. We can come and bring our hearts and lift them up to the Holy One. And as you lift your heart to the Holy One, if you have a willing heart to lift up to the Holy One, to let him tabernacle among you, he will heal you. He will heal your children. He will heal your marriage. He will heal your world. He will heal your land. He will heal your finance. He will heal you and bring it to the place where you can begin to flow and function again. And now this healing is not going to maybe look like you think it looks like. It will not make you more proud. It will make you more humble. That's the goal. And he will continue healing you in ways that make you more humble, gentle, and glowing with his face and his radiance. Honoring him, not honoring yourself or some ideology or some way of thinking. So what we're going to have is the Holy One is going to call us. We've just read that. The call of the Holy One to lift up. Those who are willing. He doesn't tell you. He doesn't demand you. He doesn't command you. He says, those who have a willing heart. Are you ready? Are you ready to come forth, to have the synergy factor of the tabernacling take place? He's going to tell us to prioritize the ultimate mission, which is to enjoy him and enjoy one another and be enjoyed by him and by one another forever. He's going to have us surrender to the Holy Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh, the breath from heaven, joyfully to give up of our own time and treasure and talents for the sake, for the joy set before us, for the purposes of letting him be our tabernacled deity among us. Then we're going to see what it looks like for 5.5 months to follow the blueprint, the divine specifications, the instructions of the Holy One, exactly as the Holy One gave them to Moshe. This is the time that's predictive. It is proactive of the Messianic kingdom to come, whenever we will actually do the things without the distractions, the divisions, the disagreements. We will do the things exactly as the Holy One has said. Oh, may it come to earth. May heaven come to earth in this way. May the tabernacling be fulfilled in the Messianic kingdom to come. But even yet, maybe we have foretaste of it daily in our lives. He's going to talk about submitting willingly to the visitation and inspection process and the divine standards of what holiness needs to look like in order for it to be effective, and for the truth to actually have some meaning to people because it's carried by the medium of the beauty of the persona and the presence and the ways of the Holy One. And he's going to teach us and prepare us for a higher level of divine infilling, of actual residing, shekinah among us, that we can draw our energy off of him, not off of our emotions, not off of our intellect, not off of our education, not off of any of those things or our religion. We draw our energy, we draw our motive, our impetus, our strength, our compelling energy will come from him, and may that flow into us and into you. Well, beloved, I believe my time with you in our little cheder, in our time together, has come to a conclusion again. We have just touched the fringes. We always do. This is just a Shabbat drash. This is not the fullness of the revelation. If you want to get more detail, if you want to go deeper, I encourage you to go to the biblicallifestylecenter.org website and look at the Rabbi Sun page and the archived studies section, and go to the Parsha of the week. This time it's the combined Parsha of Vayakhel and Pekudie. And I have a lot of detail, a lot more specifics. This drash is because this is the Sabbath. The way we handle this drash is to try to awaken you and inspire you with the very sounds of the beauty of the Hebrew calling of the Holy One upon your life. May you be blessed today. Shabbat Shalom. Let me know who you are, where you're listening, that we can join together and be synergized together. Amen.